For almost all of human history, there was no one to call. No number, no patrol car, no uniform, no station with lights on through the night. If someone stole from you, there was no officer coming. If someone hurt your family, there was no detective collecting evidence. If a dangerous man walked into camp, there was no law enforcement standing between him and everyone else. And yet humans survived like this for hundreds of thousands of years. Before prisons, before courts, before written laws, before kings, before cities. Before the idea that one special group of people should be paid to enforce order for everyone else. So how did ancient humans survive without police? The answer is unsettling. They survived because everyone was the police. Not in the modern sense, not with badges or weapons issued by a state, but because in a small group there is no such thing as private crime. Everyone sees, everyone hears, everyone remembers, and eventually everyone responds. For most of human existence, people did not live in giant anonymous cities. They lived in small mobile bands, 30 people, 50 people, maybe a few more, a moving world of relatives, allies, children, elders, hunters, gatherers, tools, fire, jealousy, hunger, gossip, and memory. Inside a group that small, you could not disappear into a crowd. You could not steal from someone and become anonymous. You could not beat someone and hide behind a locked door 3 streets away. There were no streets. There was only the camp, and the camp had eyes. This was the first form of law, not a written rule, a social rule. Everyone knows what you did. That sounds simple, but it was powerful because reputation was survival. If people thought you were generous, they shared with you. If people thought you were brave, they trusted you. If people thought you were fair, they wanted you near them. But if people thought you were dangerous, selfish, violent, or impossible to live with, your entire life could collapse. No one had to arrest you. They could stop helping you, stop feeding you, stop marrying into your family, stop inviting you close to the fire. In a world where survival depended on other people, that was not a small punishment. That was a slow death sentence. This is why gossip mattered. Modern people treat gossip like a cheap, ugly habit. But in ancient life, gossip was one of the oldest security systems humans ever invented. It warned the group. He does not share meat. She lies about where she found food. He gets violent when angry. That family cannot be trusted. That man is trying to control people. Gossip turned private behavior into public knowledge. And public knowledge became pressure. Before police reports, there were whispers. Before criminal records, there was memory. Before surveillance cameras, there were human beings watching each other because their lives depended on it. But gossip was only the softest weapon. If someone kept breaking the rules, the group had other ways. Ridicule, mockery, shaming, refusing to listen, refusing to cooperate, walking away. This was especially important in hunter-gatherer societies because many of them were fiercely suspicious of domination. A man who bragged too much after a hunt could be mocked. A person who tried to act like a chief could be laughed down. Someone who hoarded food could be criticized until sharing became easier than holding on. This was not politeness. This was social defense. Because before police, the greatest danger was not always the outsider. Sometimes it was the strongest person inside the group. The bully, the violent male, the person who wanted more than others, the person who discovered that fear could become power. Most animals solve that problem with dominance. One strong individual rises, others submit. But humans did something strange. They formed coalitions against the bully. The weak joined together. The old warned the young. Families whispered, allies gathered. And suddenly, the strongest man in camp was not stronger than everyone. That is one of the most important answers to this question. Ancient humans survived without police by preventing one person from becoming the police. Power was spread out. Judgment was collective. Punishment came from the group. And when the group agreed someone had become dangerous, the consequences could become severe. First came warnings, then ridicule, then avoidance, then exclusion. The camp might split. One family moves this way, another goes that way. The person causing trouble is left with fewer allies, fewer options, fewer people willing to sleep near him. This was called fission, not a dramatic court sentence. Just bodies moving away from conflict before it poisoned everyone. In a mobile world, walking away could be law, but sometimes walking away was not enough. Because some people do not stop. Some steal again, some attack again, some threaten children, some kill. And without prisons, without police, without a locked room to put them in, ancient groups faced a terrifying problem. What do you do with a person too dangerous to keep? There were only a few answers. You could reconcile, you could exile them, or you could kill them. That is the part modern people do not like to imagine. But in a small band with no jail and no state, a repeat killer was not a legal problem. He was a survival emergency. If he stayed, people might die. If he was expelled, he might return with revenge. If he joined another group, he might become their problem. So in the most extreme cases, the group itself could become executioner. Not because ancient humans were mindlessly savage, because they had no institution to outsource danger to. No prison system, no emergency response, no courthouse, only the circle. And the circle had to protect itself. But everyday life was not constant violence. That is the mistake. People imagine a world without police as total chaos. But small societies often avoided conflict before it exploded. They did this through constant negotiation. People talked a lot. They argued publicly. They debated. They teased. They brought elders into disputes. They used marriage ties, kinship ties, food obligations, shared children, shared ancestors, shared stories. Everything was connected to everything else. A fight between two men was not just a fight between two men. It could pull in brothers, cousins, spouses, in-laws, hunting partners, future marriages, and old grudges. So people had a strong reason to calm things down early. Violence was expensive. A murder could start revenge. Revenge could start a feud. A feud could split the group. A split group could starve. So the goal was not to punish every insult. The goal was to keep the social body from tearing itself open. And one of the oldest tools was compensation. If one person harmed another, the solution was not always revenge. It might be gifts, food, tools, marriage arrangements, public apology. A ritualized act that allowed everyone to say, the balance is repaired. The point was not abstract justice. The point was restoring a livable world. Because in a small group, you often had to keep living with the person who wronged you. That changes everything. Modern justice often imagines separation. The criminal goes away. The victim stays. The state takes over. But ancient justice often had to imagine repair. How do we make tomorrow possible when everyone still needs everyone? This is why elders mattered. Not because because they carried memory. They knew who had fought before, who had lied before, who had lost a child, who had been insulted, which families were close to breaking. They could say, this is not really about the meat. This is about what happened last dry season. Ancient law lived inside memory, and memory lived inside people. But when humans began farming, everything changed. Groups became larger, settlements became permanent, food could be stored, property became easier to steal, land became something people fought over, strangers became more common, and suddenly reputation was not enough. In a band of 40, everyone knows the thief. In a city of 40,000, the thief can vanish. In a camp, gossip moves faster than crime. In a city, crime can hide in distance. So humans built new systems: chiefs, guards, courts, written laws, punishments, prisons, eventually police. Not because humans suddenly became criminal, but because society became too large for everyone to know everyone. The old system depended on visibility. The new world created anonymity. That is the real difference. Ancient humans did not survive without police because they were better than us. They survived because they lived in worlds where behavior was harder to hide. If you were cruel, people knew. If you were generous, people knew. If you were dangerous, people knew. If you were useful, people knew. Your character followed you everywhere. There was no moving to another apartment block and reinventing yourself. There was no deleting the evidence. You carried your reputation like a second skin. And maybe that was the strongest law of all. But it came at a cost. A world without police was not automatically free. It could be suffocating. Everyone watching you. Everyone judging you. Everyone remembering your worst day. No private mistakes, no clean escape from shame, no neutral officer stepping in when the whole group turned against you. Collective justice can protect. It can also become mob justice. The same gossip that stops a thief can destroy an innocent person. The same group that restrains a bully can become the bully. That is why formal law eventually mattered, not because it made humans moral, but because it tried to separate justice from revenge, tried to slow the group down, tried to make punishment less personal, tried, at least in theory, to stop anger from becoming law. But long before that, ancient humans had already created something remarkable. They built order without uniforms. They built safety without patrols. They built punishment without prisons. They built law before law had a name. Not written on stone tablets at first, written in shame, in memory, in laughter, in exile, in shared food, in who sat close to the fire and who was left at the edge of it. So how did ancient humans survive without police? They survived by being unable to ignore each other. Every person was known. Every action echoed. Every conflict belonged to the whole group. If you helped, people remembered. If you harmed, people remembered. If you tried to dominate, people gathered. If you became too dangerous, the circle closed. And that is the part that feels almost impossible to understand now. Today, millions of people can live beside each other and remain strangers. A scream can come from the next apartment, and someone may turn up the volume. A theft can happen under a camera, and still no one knows the thief's name. A person can be dangerous for years before anyone puts the pattern together. Ancient humans had no police, but they had something modern life often lacks. They had unavoidable attention. They had social memory. They had a circle small enough that every broken rule sent a tremor through the whole camp. And when darkness fell, the law did not patrol the edge of the fire. The law sat around it, watching, listening, remembering, waiting to see who still belonged.